Good evening, everyone. My name's Jenelle Riley. I'm so thrilled to be with you here tonight, and welcome to the second season of Startup. At this time, please join me first in welcoming the show's creator. He previously created the series Chosen, also for Crackle, and he is a writer, director, producer on this season of Startup. Please welcome Ben Ketai. Also joining us is a two-time Emmy nominee and a Golden Globe-winning actor who has previously starred in the series Beauty and the Beast and Sons of Anarchy, and of course the Hellboy films. He joins the show this season in the episode you just saw as Wes Chandler and also as a producer. Please welcome Ron Perlman.
I've been a member of this thing so long, they only had one chair up here. You had to get close. Oh,
I let you take the closer one because it's really kind of going to be about you tonight.
Aww.
This isn't the DGA Foundation. So.
Thank you guys so much for being here. I always like to start out when we have people who have been doing so well in this business for so long as you guys.
What are we doing here?
It's a bunch of actors, and I'm curious, what was your first job in the industry? The first time you felt you could call yourself an actor, call yourself a writer, director?
Ben? Okay.
We're going way back for this.
We're getting the Wayback Machine. Jesus. Sometime last year, I think it was. Depending on how you define being, actor.
Yeah.
No, I mean, look, I had a very checkered rise and fall and, up again. But I don't remember, man. It was like, it just all blended into each other. The first time I got a paycheck was for a play that I did at La Mama in 1976. Everything prior to that was off Broadway. Not that La Mama was any closer to Broadway, but they gave me $156 one week, and I said, "All right, I'm an actor now."
And Ben, for you?
For me, it was a weird kind of natural transition. I had a day job working for Sam Raimi.
You're kidding.
Yeah, when for like 4 years. He, I guess I could consider him my first real mentor, and it was a day job where you show up at an office and it's, you get a paycheck and things like that. But he knew what I wanted to do, and he kept dangling the carrot and waiting for me to kind of earn my stripes, earn the right to go direct something. And that something ended up being a little short, like 30-minute web project when they were first trying to get into the digital space. And it's ironic to be sitting here talking about streaming stuff now. But, I got kind of just thrown to the wolves in a very exciting way. And, hey, go do it, go live your dream. And that was the first time I ever got actually paid to direct something.
And at the time, did you think this streaming was just a fad?
Well, the way that everybody was looking at it then, it totally felt that way. And I was actually hired there at first, and it was a bullshit hire, by the way, because it was just sort of like they were just looking for young people that would work their asses off till 12 o'clock at night every night and not complain. They basically were like, we got to figure out something for you to do, some title for you to have. So they said, you're going to be the director of new media and mobile, digital, whatever. And everybody was all about like...
That's what they told me, too.
Yeah.
They tell everybody that. Anybody here director of new media?
No? I guess we're the only ones.
But that's pretty great, starting out, on a project where Sam Raimi is backing you.
Yeah, it was huge. I mean, it was everything, because even though, I look back at it now, I'm like, Jesus Christ, I hope nobody ever goes and watches that. But, because I was young and I was still learning, but I learned a lot more because I was working with him and for him, and I had his guidance and his notes and inspiration. So
The only web we had when I started was Daffy Duck's feet.
So I want
I've been trying to get that in for a while.
So jumping to the creation of Startup, I'm curious where the idea for, sort of exploring the darknet came from in season 1, and if it was a difficult pitch, if you knew anything about this world.
For me, it was a huge leap because I'm not a very tech-savvy person at all. But it actually happened kind of organically out of a conversation I had with Crackle because we had been doing other shows together. We liked each other. I think we still like each other. But they really wanted to do something that was more based in tech, and I wanted to do something that was really based in crime. And crime is kind of the old world, and tech is kind of the new world. And we said kind of, hey, let's see what it's like on the front lines of tech in a society or in a city that is kind of driven by dirty money and crime. And that was kind of how it organically sort of came together just in the room when we were sitting there talking about it. It wasn't actually, I wish I could say it was like this thing that I had been thinking of for years and laboring over, but it really just kind of came together in the room. And then we went off and started to create the characters and the world and everything. So it was, I like to say it's an organic process.
And Ron, how did you come to the show in the second season? Were you already familiar with it? And what interested you not only as an actor but a producer?
It was like one of these out of the blue things. I wasn't prepared for it. I wasn't ready for it. I was in the midst of recovering from surgery, and I was determined to finally take a little bit of time off. And this thing just appeared, and it came with a couple of scripts that were fantastic, that led to a phone conversation with Ben that was stupendous. And then they sent me season 1. And I just cannot, there are no superlatives to describe how blown away I was by the conflagration of this amazing ensemble cast, which included Eddie Gathegi, Omar Marrero, Martin Freeman, and Adam Brody, not necessarily in that order, because any one of them could carry an entire season of any show by themselves. So you had these 4 virtuosos kind of interacting in an ensemble world. And this guy's direction, because he directed the pilot and he directed half the episodes in the first season, had a dynamicism to it and a pace to it that I had never seen in television before. And this wasn't even a world that I gave a shit about. I mean, startup, I just,
You're really selling this show.
I mean, I didn't.
Who wants to watch
I didn't
that?
even get dressed to watch it. You know how that is. It's my underwear and stuff. I mean, episode 3, I started putting some clothes on. I said to myself, this is going somewhere. And by the time I got to like episode 8, I seriously, and I'm not exaggerating, I'm not saying this for effect, I seriously doubted that I had the chops to get in this ensemble and not screw it up. And I was pretty intimidated when I showed up in Puerto Rico. It was one of those things where the scariness was, led to a conversation with myself like, you pussy, if you don't do this shit, you don't deserve to be called an actor and shit. So I went down there and I sweated my way through the first episode, and the company was so welcoming. We found a groove, and I became a family member quite quickly, and so glad that I did.
I mean, have you ever felt that way about a role before? Are you someone
Never.
Really?
No, I'm kidding.
I don't know.
I must have at some point.
I mean, do you ever doubt that you can pull it off?
Yeah, the one before this, Hand of God was, thank you, was really intimidating when I read it. In fact, I read it and called my manager and I said, which part are they talking about? And he said, the judge. I said, no, that's not possible, man. There's no way I could do that. And it was the same conversation, you know, like I will have to be so upset and so uncomfortable throughout most of the process of performing this guy because he's so out of control emotionally and spiritually, and yet he has this kind of King Lear power to him. It would be so easy at 65 years old to just say, fuck this. Who needs to upset themselves like this? And then the other angel on the other shoulder said, you pussy.
Wait, so they're both angels? It's not a devil and an angel?
I apologize for my language. I'm just, but get used to it because it's fucking coming whether you like it or not.
And Ben, I'm curious, you do have an amazing ensemble already, but what made you think of Ron for this part?
Well, first of all, it's funny. It's funny to hear the stories that he tells me about him feeling intimidated by the ensemble upon arrival, because it was completely the same on the other side of it, where everybody who was already on the show was going, "Oh shit, Ron's coming!" Like what?
He's coming.
And people were putting bugs in my ears during development and stuff, the first few weeks leading up to production. Like, is it possible? Like, can I have more scenes with Ron and things like that? It was just sort of like. I think they all really looked up to Ron and wanted to, and are sort of all kind of striving for that level of greatness. And so it was kind of cool to see everybody kind of in this nice humble hug together. It was going back to your question. Ron was actually. I mean, I've always admired Ron. Whenever he shows up in anything, I'm just like, I feel this sort of warm feeling come over me where I'm like, I am in good hands now. I'm going to be entertained, and I'm going to see something that's real and something that is different. And so when we were talking about it in the writer's room, when we were creating this character, in the writer's room, we like to, I'm not sure if other writers' rooms do this, but we like to put up sort of faces on the wall and say, this is our dream. So we have something to at least strive for. And Ron was that face. We were just like, that's who this role needs to be. It's like, that's something I would love to see Ron do. And just feel, it still feels unreal that it happened, because it's rare that first, person that you are striving for is.
Yeah, I've heard writers sometimes hesitate to do that because, they never get the person they want or that they're imagining. But it sounds like you kind of you wrote it with him in mind.
Yeah, it was, well, of course, we had to check with Crackle first and make sure they like Ron also. But, that's a big part of it, why writers don't often do that, because it's not as much about, the material getting to the right person, but it's also about sort of the right pieces for financing and things like that. But that's the whole ugly world of what happens outside this creative beauty that we try to protect, And so it was a dream, It really and I will say the experience of going through it with Ron in the first season was way more just awesome than anything I would have even expected. So I don't know. I don't want to get all gushy up here, but this guy's awesome. I don't have to tell you guys, but and you saw him in episode 3 there, and he just rocks it.
He had me the moment I saw the scarf. I was like,
yeah,
I want to know everything about this guy.
Yeah.
We have a question from the audience. Wants to know if you utilize any expert consultants with, is it blockchain industry knowledge? Blockchain industry knowledge. I am curious because you said you didn't really know this world too well. How did you become so well versed in it? And have you heard from people in the industry, that they appreciate this?
Yeah, some of them really appreciate it. Some of them are like, you fucked up. So it's just like, it's kind of, it's very polarizing because the tricky thing about learning about it was it's such an amorphous kind of technology right now. People haven't really kind of it'd be impossible for me to sit here and explain to anybody how it works because I don't even really know the nitty gritty of it. I'm not a tech person. I understand theoretically how it works, and enough, and our tech consultants on the show gave us enough knowledge to imbue into the story and the dialogue. But ultimately, yeah, it's one of those things. It's like trying to explain the internet to somebody who doesn't know what the internet is. So, yeah, I know a lot more about it now than I did then, but.
Because you don't want to mess with these people. Like, you want them to be a fan of your work.
That's what I was hoping for, and we got a lot of them and a lot of good ones too, and I was very happy about that. And we actually had some new sort of hacker consultants come on to season 2 who were big fans of the show, and that was exciting because I was like, all right, so we
got Julian Assange for season 3.
Good, he needs a job.
No one's supposed to know that.
Sorry, we didn't get him.
And Ron, for you, I don't know, when you take on each role, if it involves the same amount of research or some are easier than others. Did you do anything special to prepare for this character?
No.
Spent a lot of time on the internet. You're very active on Twitter, I know that.
That's what I mainly did to research the role, is just piss people off as much as I could. No, I didn't know anything about this world. I still don't know anything about this world. I asked Ben, what do you think I need to know about the world? He said, what do you think? I said, I'm good. He goes, okay. So it went along like that. The conversation just went along like that, like amazing, like highbrow shit.
Can I ask, what's the most challenging role in your career that required the most preparation? Or research?
Preparation. I'm not big on preparation. We really prepped a lot for my very first film role, which was Quest for Fire. That was approached by Jean-Jacques Annaud in the most respectful way 80,000 years ago, as being as specific in a theoretical moment in time as you could possibly be. So he assembled an amazing group of experts: Desmond Morris, anthropology, Anthony Burgess, who is most known for Clockwork Orange, but he's the foremost linguistic professor at Oxford. He created this glossary of terms that had these Indo-European roots, and we worked for 6 months on the movement and theoretically what moment in time this evolutionary run-up to current, what are we in now? Is this Cro-Magnon? What are we now? Humanus
The apocalypse.
Emeritus.
I think it's just the apocalypse.
You can see the kind of research I do. It's written all over me. But that was a heavy lift, that one.
Well, with startup, it is like speaking another language sometimes. So do you feel you learned anything from working on this project?
No, not a thing. I called Ben. I said, Ben, this is a world I'm not familiar with. And I said, look, you know what I hope you don't mind that I out all of our most private moments, but I said, I'm looking to play a guy that no one knows what the fuck he's thinking ever, including him. Like, that's how enigmatic I want him to be. Like, I want him to just be completely no way to categorize, box in, figure out. And once you think you do, he just pulls everything out from under you, and you got to start from scratch. In other words, I want to play a guy that doesn't need to know anything. And that was my way of saying, I'm not doing one fucking bit of research on this thing at all. I'm just going to feel it. I'm just going to like bullshit my way through everything. I think that's how he got his money. I think that's how he continues to run his life. I think that's the hold he has over people. We have a president, kind of. I mean, I wouldn't call him enigmatic, but I would call him, completely unprepared and making shit up as he goes along and getting an awful lot of people to write checks. So I promised I wouldn't go there, but.
It's hard not to because every time you look at your Twitter, there's some new atrocity. So.
Not of my doing. I just report the news.
So I am curious if you can tell us what we can sort of expect from season 2. Because I know all the episodes drop, if that's the correct terminology, on the 28th. That's tomorrow.
They're actually up now.
They're up right
Somebody
now?
just texted me and told me that they put them out early. So.
Oh well, go home, everyone.
Yeah. I think they snuck them out. Maybe it's just a soft release to make sure it works. I don't know, but yeah. What to expect? Did you guys see? Was there a this season on situation
there was like a teaser,
something like that?
Yeah. Wait, some of you saw it, and some of you didn't. What? Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay, but it didn't go through the whole season. Well, essentially, I mean, what you can expect is the similar kind of collision of tech and crime that you see in season 1. Anchored in really dynamic characters who all have a lot to gain and a lot to lose, but really on steroids this year. We've kind of upped the stakes. We've really leaned into the idea that ambition can lead you down a really dangerous road, and yeah, there's just more. There's more excitement. There's more guns. There's more tech. And what's really great about it, I think, this season that's different than last season is last season we were based in cryptocurrency, and cryptocurrency is a nearly impossible thing to explain to me, let alone an audience who's trying to be entertained. This year with the darknet, though, it's a much more kind of cut and dry sort of technology that is very, right now, 2018. I know it's 2017, but I like to say we're looking ahead to the future. But
God willing.
Yeah, if we get there. So yeah, I think it's just a much more straightforward, but also very exciting and very, the characters really kind of come to life in an incredible way, much in part to Ron being thrown into the mix and a few other new pieces of cast that kind of make it much more dynamic.
I mean, I'm just going to throw this out. We've never talked about this, and so correct me if I'm wrong, but this guy that I play has been underground. He's been in retirement, and he comes out because he's hearing noises about this group of people, and particularly the genius of this girl, this Cuban girl from lower middle class Miami family who is a genius who went to Stanford, and she's writing code it's coming out of her So what happens when, it's got to be something pretty dynamic to take him out of retirement and say, so this is what happens when people smell money. And I think that the second season is about what happens when people smell money. And when people smell money, man, comedy ensues.
By the way, I mentioned earlier that you're active on Twitter. Do you have the new 280 character benefit, or are you still?
I tweeted it out today.
Really?
Let me see if I can remember it. The instructions on my ADHD medication inform me that following anybody with more than 140 characters is not advisable. Something like that. No, I don't. I mean, I have trouble reading 140 characters. Are you fucking kidding me? 280, that's double. Like, who has that kind of time? And nobody's that interesting. Nobody. The best thing about Twitter is it forces you to it's the closest thing we have to what writers have to go through, which is, economize and be metaphoric, and the more room you give people, the more bullshit that you're gonna get.
So if they grant you the magical 280 characters, you'll say no thanks.
Not this week, but I also said I wasn't going to get a cell phone, about 10 years ago, and now I can't get off it.
Can I borrow your 140 if you choose to not?
You can have it. You can have 360 if you need to.
I have some audience questions. This is from Piper Major. Oh, I see back there. Wants to know. Oh, Ron. I've been watching you on TV and film for years. What is the secret to longevity in an acting career?
Man, I don't know, man. I don't know. I should have been counted out, a long time ago. And, I just thank God that they haven't found me out yet, or, like that nobody's figured out, I mean, I don't know. I mean, listen, actors' careers are like fingerprints. There are no two that are the same. And I just happen to, the best things have come to me post 50. And I can't explain it. I'd prefer not to, because it's pretty metaphysical in my mind. I don't get it. I just thank God for it.
Was there a moment that you could pinpoint where things sort of changed for you? Maybe you didn't have to audition anymore, or people started recognizing you?
Not really a moment, but I think Sons of Anarchy was a game changer. I think being in Guillermo del Toro's next film after Pan's Labyrinth, which was Hellboy 2, probably put me on lists that I hadn't been on. I was already way past 50 at that point. But and then that led to this role that I've been on for like 17 years or so. And it's good, man. It's good. I recommend it.
You were in Guillermo's first movie. You were in Guillermo's first movie, the Spanish language Kronos. Right. And so like you pinpointed early on that this person had talent. So it only makes sense that he would continue to employ you.
Yeah, we he started showing me dailies, and I knew that I was looking at a kind of framing, a kind of just like what he was able to put in each frame, that he was like, every once in a while you run into a filmmaker that paints, that makes images that are as startling as Rembrandt or Picasso. And, he's in that class. And it was immediate. It was like, it was his first film. He had no money. He was like, a third of the budget fell out the night before he started filming. And he's still, this genius was coming out of him regardless of circumstance. So he was not one to be held, it was apparent to me. I just got on the train and said to all my friends, I just did this picture with this dude in Mexico, man. You got to check this shit out. And then he went on to win Critics Week at the Cannes Film Festival. And, now he doesn't speak to me anymore. Hang on. I keep checking for messages. Let me see.
Give him a call now. See what he's doing. No. I'm curious, though. Sons of Anarchy is such an iconic role. Are people afraid to approach you when they see you, or?
Better be, boy. I don't know. I'm just a pussycat. I don't know.
We have a question from Scott. Is asking you guys to please share a fun or funny experience on set.
I can never think of those.
It's tough, yeah, because it was so miserable. But yeah, I can never think of those. But it was because it was a lot. It's just consistent fun. I think, to me, the fun of a set and the fun of working with people that you really like as people, not just as actors, is that it just feels like you're hanging out with your family all day. And so there's lots of jokes and there's lots of, there's lots of kind of just quirky things, idiosyncrasies that, I think only that pod that you've created sort of gets. And that's really the lovely thing about getting to do what we get to do. I can't think of anything.
I mean, working with Martin
Specific.
Freeman, or maybe he's very serious. Sometimes these people who are so good at comedy are very serious. He's very serious in the show.
He's a dark guy. He's he's a very
Really?
Well, no, he's a wonderful person. Just a really just really great dude. but yeah, he has an intensity about him and he's fun to work with, fun as hell to work with. But he's not the fun and games that you see when you see him in, usually when you see him on screen. And I think that's what was so cool about the role he got to do in this, was that you get to really unleash the beast,
I love that you said unleash the beast. We have a question from Brandon. Yes, wants to know, Ron, what was your experience like working on Beauty and the Beast, and how do you see yourself now as an actor in comparison to back then?
Well, I'm a lot older. That was the first taste of mainstream, because it was CBS primetime, 8 o'clock Friday nights. And prior to that, everything had been almost like art house or, off the beaten path, stuff that no one went to see except people who were seeking out things that were non-mainstream and off the beaten path. And then Beauty and the Beast comes along, and it's like this. It was a big cosmic kiss, and it was it was a big validation. And it was a phenomenal character to play. I regarded it as a gift every single minute I got to be that guy. Ron Koslow created it, singular imagination. George R.R. Martin was just on the writing staff.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. George R.R. Martin, it was, I think, maybe his first television job. I don't know that he's ever allowed himself to be in a writer's room since then, because he's been so busy, writing his fiction. But
He writes books now, right?
he does? I thought he was like an exec at HBO. But anyway,
Soon.
his episodes were like a John Coltrane solo, when Coltrane was taking acid every day. George has got a really cool imagination.
Yeah.
He didn't write like anybody else.
Have you
I
been
didn't
to his
answer
museum?
your question. I don't even remember the goddamn question.
How would you compare yourself as an actor then to now?
So I wrote a book, and it's available on Amazon. Not that I care whether you buy it or not. Just the kids need to eat. But anyway, I talk about how the mask work that I was so fortunate to have endowed on me in the early years really helped me, because I wasn't comfortable just acting, with no barrier between me and the person who was watching me. I was very self-conscious, very uncomfortable in my own skin. The minute I put on the mask, I got freed up, and I felt like I could do anything I wanted to, because it wasn't me. It was this abstract creation that was objectified, that that had nothing to do with me. And thank God for all those jobs, which was like Quest and Name of the Rose and Anna Dr. Moreau, Hellboy, Beauty and the Beast. And then I kind of hit my late 40s, and I began to get more and more at peace with myself, and I realized I don't need that crutch anymore. I don't, I'm actually comfortable just, au naturel. And that's when I kind of put all that stuff away. Although, you know, if it led to an opportunity to hang out with Marlon Brando, you know, I put it back on, and that's why I went and did that. But yeah, I mean, we're all actors, and that's my little thing. It's like weird. It's like I was fortunate enough to be given an opportunity to get to play great roles, where I could also be a guy who was very uncomfortable in his own skin because of that kind of technicality, and it was cool. It was, you know, a cool part of the evolution.
Well, this guy seems very comfortable in his own skin, so I'm very curious to see where this will take us. Oh, there's a photo of you up there in case you didn't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting arc when you think about it that
Yeah.
way for your entire career, because Wes is somebody who does not give a fuck about
Right.
what anybody thinks about him, and will just kind of lives to the beat of his own drum. So I just thought that was cool. I don't know.
He's mulling it.
No, I mean, I'm actually quite. I mean, I've become more and more attracted to finding out, like walking that fine line about exposing almost too much, and then, you know, but keeping it to the point where it doesn't get weird. You know, like the cops don't come and take you away. And, you know, but yeah, I mean, Wes was attractive in that regard because he's very naked, you know, in his own enigmatic way, and in episode 4 he is actually
Really?
naked.
Literally?
No.
Oh, everyone was about to rush home and jump straight to the 4th episode. Well, speaking of, apparently it is online now, so I want to let everyone know to go to Crackle, and you can watch all of season 2 at once. Thank you guys so much for being a great audience. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you.